Hello and welcome to Viber Finance. This evening, Whitney Magic, our special guest, and I will be talking about crypto and consciousness. PulseChain will pump. Tonight, we're going to give you some alpha. That's right, some alpha on onboarding tips. Let's grow this community. But before we get started, let's say hello to Whitney. Hey, Whitney.
Hey, Lindsay. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to have you here and to pick your brain about onboarding strategies, how you're getting women started with crypto, what you've been up to. So let's start there. What have you been up to lately? I hear you were at an event recently, and I would love to know more about that.
Yeah. I feel like recently things have been so busy and so great. This past weekend, I just came back from Fort Worth in Texas, which was the North American Blockchain Conference. I have to say, I was very surprised kind of with the lineup behind it. And I also knew no one going into it. So I went alone. I went to this event just to kind of like figure out and network and see what was going on in the space. And this summit was more based around a lot of specifically Bitcoin related things. So a lot of mining, a lot of the tech things, a lot of policy. So there were actually a lot of congressmen, politicians, a few presidential candidates. It was really fascinating just to hear about like how crypto as a collective is evolving from the policy side of things. And I was also pretty surprised. I guess one thing is like I understand that like Bitcoin is the number one and like it has been the first, but there's such a big emphasis around just Bitcoin versus most other things that almost felt a little bit aggressive to some degree.
Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how that one seems to be the leader of the language, and yet, because obviously it's the granddaddy, so of course everybody's gonna look to Papa to see what's going on, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I was taking a look. I was looking at the speakers there. Did you have the opportunity to listen to Caitlin Long at all?
I did. I really enjoyed her.
Oh,
And
she's one of my faves. Sorry.
yeah, in particular, I loved that. Like, I mean, honestly, there were not many women there. It was very easy to stand out from a female speaker, also to a female audience member. But for Caitlin, it was really beautiful to see how much she really has been trailblazing a lot of the crypto movement to collectively, like her big thing is around banking. And she's created like I'm not going to speak too far into this because I might not speak well on it, but a crypto, a good bank that supports crypto as well. Um, just honestly, her movement is so much like switching the trust in the banking system. Really enjoy her energy collectively, what she brings to the space.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, for her to be a first mover in Wyoming and try to make that happen and then get shut down at every turn, and for her not to give up, I stand behind her, rally her on that one. Her and oh, let's go down the path of like who are your favorite crypto like females in crypto like leader wise or I don't want to say influencer because that sounds like I don't you know what I mean like looking I don't we'll throw influencer out there too. Why not? Who are your favorite
Um,
females out there?
Quite honestly, I hate to say this, I don't have many. Um, I haven't loved the crypto female space, or I haven't really clicked with many people, and I've learned mostly from the dudes. And then I've done my own intuitive learning around things as well. So that's fortunately helped me like stay somewhat in YouTube, but also have my own space to like really develop my own opinions. Um, and more than anything, I find that it's a massive need. I mean, in our space, I really enjoy KDP. Um, and oh, there's one other gal, Toby and Heidi. I really enjoy Heidi. I forgot what I think they're called Crypto Tips. Um,
She was doing a killer job covering the Sam Bankman-Fried trial for a while there.
oh yeah, and I really enjoy. Like, I think a lot of crypto stuff sometimes is a little bit too long, and their stuff's really condensed well. But who are some of the females that you have really enjoyed in the crypto world?
Oh man, I my one of my faves to listen to absolutely is Danelle Dixon from Stellar. the Stellar Foundation. She's so well spoken. She's so well behind the point, and she's connected. She's in these meetings. She's listening in the ground of what's going on with legislation, with regulation, and she's getting a clarification. And I love the way that she turns around and she makes it very relatable and very straightforward, peer to peer. And my favorite on Twitter, probably to follow along with, is Alex Damsker. She used to have a podcast, but I don't know what happened with that. She does spaces every once in a while. Love listening to Alex. She's a lawyer from the West Coast, just really well spoken, knows her crypto. And there's so many more too. Like, I guess it just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. If I'm in the mood to listen to entrepreneurial role model, like where are we growing? What are we doing? Those kind of things. And those are kind of a couple of Linda P. Jones too. I really like her. She's really, she doesn't dumb it down. She sends it right to the sister. She said, like, she makes it relatable on the level, talking about, like, she talks about, like, picking your favorite stocks as in shopping for luxury goods, right? So
True.
yeah, and so there's a great analogy out there too. It's because just there's a lack of confidence in this market for like retail female investors, and like the ones that are out there and we're crushing it or killing it. We're trying to be as loud as we can. So tell me a few things that you've been doing lately to be as loud as you can. Now, not just the ladies. I know we have lovely brothers out there. I call them my crypto brothers, my crypto friend and fam. So we never want to exclude you guys. You guys are always welcome. Tin Top, Russ, Bobby, Fishing with Camo Joe. Thank you guys all for being here. So Whitney's going to drop some alpha on us and how she gets the ladies involved.
Yes. I also like to say that I typically work with mostly ladies, but then also guys who are like allies to women. Because not all guys are receptive to either working in the feminine with like a feminine with a gal, or receiving the feminine energy. So I find that oftentimes, I take that if any guys are listening to this, they have to be somewhat receptive to the feminine energy. And so thank you guys for being allies to women and seeing us chat and be in our power. But yeah, anyways, what I've been doing in particular is I've been sharing, honestly, the best way for me has been speaking and sharing stories, and my own personal stories of what crypto has meant to me. And I've been doing that online. So it's been through Instagram mostly for me. And then some through Facebook, but it's really just been speaking to my people, or speaking in public to people. Like when I'm in the sauna with people, it's honestly the best conversations I have, where people are like, what are you up to? I'm like, I'm about to hop on an interview. And they're like, an interview? What for? And I'm like, well, crypto, it's my greatest passion in the whole wide world. And they're like, really? Tell me more about this. Are you serious? And I was like, yes. And so I just really find that me just being like, in the past, I almost tried to hide parts of myself. And I was a little bit fearful of claiming like crypto fully passionately for the whole world to see. Because I was like, is it too much for people? But truth be told, like, people actually want to get in. They want to know who is behind this crypto thing. And so the more and more that I've been able to just be like, hey, I'm evidence. This is it. This stuff works. And they're like, I have these curiosities. I'm like, well, what do you have curiosities about? Like, let's talk about it. So for me, it's been a lot of like really just having conversations and having people be like, hey, what is your curiosity? And we begin there. And I hear about their fears, or I hear about what they want and their dreams. And we just continue to unpack it from there.
I feel like that's the best way to do it, is to keep it relatable and keep it, oh gosh, that looks terrible. Hold on a second. There's blood in the street. Let's go to the month. Dang, even the week was green earlier. I just looked at that. I was like, oh, the week went red too. Well, we are at the beginning of a bull market, guys. So, well, actually, I feel like we've been in a bull market for a little while here. Not to switch the pivot here, but that kind of goes along with onboarding. When you're onboarding with green candles and you're onboarding with numbers and those like exciting, like, we're all degens here. If you're here watching Viber Fridays, the chances are you have a little bit of degen in you. So congratulations and welcome home. So keeping that relatable to peer-to-peer, if you're in the sauna, if you're at the grocery store, like there's little things, little conversations that you can have. I love little hints like crypto swag. right? Just having something little like the hats or something. Oh, I really like your hat. That's so cool. What is it? I'm like, oh, let me tell you. And then I just stop. I'm like, oh, are you familiar with are you familiar with a CD? And if they'll be like, look at me and like, I'm like, no, and I'm not talking about like the kind we're gonna scratch here. And so anyway, like keeping it relatable, keeping it light. So you were saying your people. Where are you finding your people these days? Like besides Sana, it's like these ladies. You worked with a community, or you have your own community. Like explain more. Sorry, there's so much background noise here. Now it's a little distracting. Hold on one sec. I want to hear you.
So my background. So middle of this year, I decided I was like for myself, like I got in 2020. I did my work. I put my head down. I went into sabbatical mode back then. And essentially I trained myself to have the blessing that I have today and like see the opportunity. And I know that I'm just the beginning of many other women that need to come into the space. So this year I created my own community and I created my own program. I started off with conversations with women where I was like, hey, who would want to learn about crypto? I have this skill set. Is this something that people would want? Is it financial literacy? Is it saving? Like, what parts do you want to know? And I just had conversations and people were like, no, I genuinely want to know all of it. I want to know like the market cycle timing. I want to compare it to other assets. I want to be able to understand what projects are the best. I want to understand how to spot what's good and what's not. I want to understand the charts to some degree, but I also don't want to be overwhelmed by tech and I want to speak it through the lens of energy. And I'm like, oh, so you want to know it all. And so from people's curiosities, I then created a 12-week program. I brought in a bundle of people. I capped the program off at 10 people because I was like the first round. I just really need to get through it, create the curriculum, and be really intimate with these people. And so fortunately, I do have to say my passion definitely rubbed off on people. They came into the space they definitely feared crypto to a lot of degrees where they're like, I don't know very much about financial literacy. I haven't taken financial control of my finances. I feel that the system is broken in the world, but I don't really know why. And we broke down step by step. Like we began with the problem around the financial system, the problem like that trust is crumbling. And it was from the problem that they were able to understand and see that, okay, this is a problem. And with problems, solutions appear and opportunities appear, but they didn't really once you understand the problem fully, you're able to understand how big of a demand a solution really is. And so we went step by step to have them understand meta of what's going on. And then we went into it. But quite honestly, the way that I teach and the way that I find a lot of women work, and I think a lot of people actually in this next wave of adoption don't need to know all the tech. So I actually keep it at quite high level. I still have plenty to teach about, but I don't need to bore them about the details around how blockchain's architected or even all the different yield options, all the different projects that are coming out. I'm like, invest in value, invest in innovation, invest in things that are changing the world. Stay away from the noise, but find value. And I think a lot of times people just need that extra little hand and support to help direct their attention so they don't get lost to the sea of all the information on YouTube and Twitter and Telegram, or think that they have to keep up with all of it. And so for me, yeah, I've just been super passionate about my community. I've been super passionate about the people I've been chatting with, seeing their, I think one of the coolest things is just how much when people start to see a little bit of a glimpse into crypto, suddenly all these possibilities unfold, where so many women were just reaching out to me and they're like, I didn't come from money. I thought I was going to be poor for all of my life. And suddenly these things are clicking for me. And they're like, I can feel that I can be a millionaire. It's possible for me. It's possible to change my daughter's lives. It's possible to change all the future generations that come before me. And so it's just so cool. I have goosebumps saying this, of just seeing the transformation of women understanding where the world is and understanding that when they take control of just a few aspects of their finances and of where their money is, they can radically shift their life and their relationship to their power, how they create in the world, money, all of it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful shift. And that's a beautiful thing you're doing, showing people, breaking it down. When you were saying, I had to laugh when you say that, because if you throw all that techie jargon, you're and people are like they're sitting there like with their dictionaries, like trying to decipher code when you're talking, and it's that disrupts the message at the end of the day, and that's really what you are out there for. You're having that conversation with that person because you have that passion about what you know and how clearly you see the future, but it's not often easy when you're met with opposition or like with, I mean, I guess it depends on the energies that you're opening yourself up to anyway. Um, I get a lot of like financial men that are like established in traditional finance, and they want to roll over the top of me with their facts and figures and their weak, stinky returns. Keep it very PC for tonight. So not all of our content is being shadow banned on YouTube, maybe. But it's the oppositional force is fear. What do you think about that?
I speak to the yeses. So naturally, yes, of course, everyone's going to come back with fear. Hold on. I wonder if for those financial men, is it actually fear or is it their ego?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, let's be serious. They're probably good packing up. I think a lot of it is their ego is embedded with fear, because it's a fear of the unknown. And really what that boils down to is there's some sort of imbalance in their root chakra, if you really want to get real deep into it tonight, that fundamentally tells me that they're insecure about something. And if they're insecure, it tells me that they're not curious. And if they're not curious to open the door, then that tells me that that's going to be a pretty tough door to open with a financial conversation. However, I know that they like dogs, or I know that they like, for some odd reason, the Buffalo Bills. So those are my doors and those are my avenues,
Yes. Yes. Because I frequently, like, when I'm having conversations with people, I genuinely have no agenda. I'm just like, quite honestly, what usually happens is I am having a conversation with someone, like telling my like life story over the past 4 years of my life, and just dropping in bits, and people are like, who are you? You haven't worked for all this time. You really have traveled the world in these ways, and you really have like shifted your relationships with your family in this way, and like you're really that free. And it's truly not about the tech, and it's truly not about crypto. Instead, it's about the freedom. And that's where that's where I can even have conversations with men who may very much be in their ego, but if I'm sharing my stories are not meeting at their ego. I'm meeting at a space of connection. I'm meeting at a space of soul. In that case, I get to bypass the logical mind and go straight to the emotions. And then they're like turning their brain off in that way. And they don't have to necessarily calculate, but instead they're listening to me to be like, oh, this girl actually does have a head like screwed pretty well onto her shoulders. She understands what she's talking about. She's literally done this. Maybe there's something here. But I just completely bypass the like, I don't want to talk to the logical mind. I don't want to talk to an agenda. I don't want to talk to the ego. I want to go deep. And I find that when I can speak to the depth or speak to someone's soul, I've been trying to do this even online too, like on Twitter in particular in our community, where I've been trying to speak more to people's souls so that we actually call that consciousness out and we call more of the soul out so that we can have conversations on that level rather than here, because that's where we're all familiar with. But this is what's really rejuvenating for everyone in my mind.
No, I 100%. If you're having conversations anywhere up here where the mind is busy while they're talking, right? Your mind is busy. That means that the information isn't coming down. And this really is your center. This really is the place where what your gut, so to speak. It's a little higher than our guts, but this is your center refuge right here. Will tell you every boundary that you have, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, because it was instilled or you haven't learned it or found it yet. But speaking to that and around that ego can be quite difficult. But if you're finding that you're getting that noise around your head, take a deep breath, bring that down, and that will open this space up so that it's not so busy up here. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense for our listeners. I'm sure it makes sense for you. I hope it makes sense for all our listeners, because then I feel like it'll help facilitate conversations a little bit easier. People can just breathe.
First off, speaking of the ego and the mind and things, can we get rid of the crypto bubbles and I can just see fully you?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay,
There
cool.
we go. I'll
Second
try
off,
to make it festive with green.
yes. What else do you do to be able to speak through and break through out of people's minds? Like, are there questions you ask? Is it changes in conversation? Is there anything in particular that works for you?
I avoid small conversations at all cost. I feel like they're annoying. So if somebody's talking about the weather, I'll ask them about, oh, are you familiar with weather patterns? I'll open up the door that way. Are you familiar with weather patterns? Oh. And then if they say no, like I'll go, it just depends situationally, like how that door opens. But the most beautiful thing, and you mentioned this earlier, is giving people the empowerment to know that freedom is truly available. It's everywhere. So if somebody comes to you and they're like, I don't even, because because you hear guilt with those things, right? Like I didn't take care of my finances, and that's like guilt. Like I didn't do that before, but here I'm now. I'm going to try. Like yes, okay, welcome. I feel like that. I mean, we can get real deep here. That feminine energy is missing from the market because it's traditionally a male-dominated energy market, and seeing more females entering now. I mean, when I first started, it was 13%. Now we're at 67% women investing. Makes me so happy.
Wait, what? We're
67
majority?
We are now a majority. Well, 67% more females and we're not majority here. No, please. But we're actually not that far behind. The last report that I read, we were about 37%, which was up from like 4%. So let's go. But those reports are so biased. Like they all come from like one survey company that collects a bunch of data that they collected off of you for free. How do you feel about that, Web 2?
Also, how many men are going to be reporting versus women?
I mean, yeah. Women are actually, and this is a fact. It's a fact out there, fellas. Women are actually better long-term investors. We're better investors. That's the blanket term, because we're better long-term holders. What do you think about that?
Well, I have so many things to say about this. First off, I think, okay, before we get into that, I think one thing that is missing that I have found really good and that I've been doing is making this a little bit more human. So it's even like admitting the things that you do that maybe aren't like super sparkly, that are not like, I don't have the best practices here, or like it took me a long time to, like, for me personally, it took me a while to build out my security system well. And just admitting that human part to my students makes them relax and be like, okay, like you're human. Also, like this is a big game. Like there's a lot of things going on. Or admitting like, hey, I haven't gotten all the tops or bottoms right. That's fine. Or like, I don't know what's going on. And like that I don't know is enough to be able to help add some humanness to it, because, or else we're just talking to the ego of thinking that we know what's going on when we don't. Wait, sorry, I went on a tangent. What was the question that you asked? Oh, intuition. Or sorry.
Yeah, let's
women.
go with intuition. Yeah, let's go with women and their intuition. Take it from there.
So women being better long-term investors. A big thing that I see is, I think a few parts to it is, first off, we're really good at listening and tapping into our intuition to know like what's actually tugging us and pulling us. In particular, that's something I really teach my people that work with me, is like how you can actually use your intuition as a tool, because it ultimately is, your intuition is here to help you make decisions. And it's a decision-making tool quite blankly. It tugs you in some direction to say, hey, leave the job. Hey, maybe this partnership isn't super clean. Hey, maybe you should wait a week. Our intuition helps us make decisions. And so I find, because women are a lot more in tune with their intuition and they're okay with being like, this doesn't feel right, we can make better decisions that way. And then the other half of it that I find is, because like investing is a huge emotional game, whether people want to admit it or not, it is. And part of it is, if you can't, so like, even for myself, I like over the past 3 years, I learned to work more with my emotions. But let's say you're not comfortable with working with your emotions or identifying what's going on, or saying like, oh, I feel like sadness, or I feel like this, like identifying your feelings. If you're not necessarily great at that, your emotions may run the show when you're making trades, or saying like, oh, I feel anxious, but you can't identify that you're anxious. Instead, what you may do is you may take actions that are aligned to that anxiety and to that emotion, rather than, like, for a lot of women, whoo, I'm feeling a lot of this right now. Okay, now that I'm feeling this, I know that this is my emotions and not my intuition or not logic. And that's two different feelings, because then you're able to process the emotion and then make a grounded decision within it.
Oh, yes. That was so many snaps for that. Absolutely. It really is knowing what you hold. And we're really good at whys. Why? You know? So
I
the
love
why.
the asking questions, and like part of it is like my curiosity lights it up, and I'm like, I have no problem coming off as like the innocent childlike gal, which I frequently get, but a lot of guys can't do that. And so instead I just get to ask the stupid questions, or the things that people skip over. And I'm like, no, let's go back to square one, because you missed one topic and then you blasted off and you left me behind. But
Oh
it's
yeah.
the
No, go
yeah.
ahead.
It's the simple questions that usually like actually settle everything.
Very simple questions. I feel like so seldomly people are secure enough to ask those questions because they're afraid of looking like they don't know the answer, or they're afraid of looking like they're, um, I don't know, like me sitting here going, you know.
Yeah.
So you're better off just asking. And it's easy to say too, but I love that you hit that because I feel like that's so important. These markets are emotional. They're driven by by math, right? They're driven, but they're behind it. Who's clicking that button? I mean, unless you have limit orders and like you're clicking a button initially. Anyway, you're clicking some button to set these things in motion, right? So if you're not starting from a place of being grounded, which is knowing like, okay, I'm purchasing this because I'm like, this is my plan. I hate this thing. Sorry. This is my plan and I'm sticking to it. And then this is my plan for profit taking, if you have these things mapped out, then it makes it a little bit easier. If you're making them from emotion, like you said, then you're ready to pop off. You see like a huge spike of the chart and then you think, oh great, this is definitely going to crash. And then the negativity sets in, or like, I mean, sometimes those stories that you're hearing are not even your own. And then especially if you're tuning into somebody else, like if you're listening to YouTube, Spaces or Twitter and stuff, the FUD is real, man. I mean, look at and PulseChain is like, man, this playground is open. Take a good look on Deck Screener today and see what the sentiment is like. You'll see where people making their decisions based on FUD that's happening on Twitter, and that's a little nuts to me. So I don't know. It's like really important that you. I don't know. Okay, let me ask you this. What's a good way of saying that without sounding like it, you have to do this? Like, it's really like, I can't encourage people enough to step back for just a minute and do the work to figure out like, oh, I'm not actually angry. Like that situation annoyed me and not gonna let that go. And I almost feel like to compartmentalize, but to be able to flow through it instead of stopping it and keep it stagnant. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I personally find curiosity is like my greatest fuel for all of this. And okay, so we were just talking about like the ability to ask the stupid and simple and maybe somewhat dumb question to other people. There's another reason that I think being able to ask these questions to other people is also really radically important for your own personal growth. And that is because if you feel comfortable enough with asking outsiders questions, you can now ask yourself the honest and real question. And it may be painful at times because you have to admit to yourself, hey, I might be wrong. Hey, I'm feeling this thing and it's really uncomfortable. And to be like, oh, there's the emotion here. I don't like the reason I'm keeping myself busy or like I'm scrolling more on Twitter is because there's an emotion within me that I want to run from. And ultimately, the only way that we can really be with that emotion is to get curious with it, is to slow down just a little bit, listen to it just enough, ask it just a little bit of questions. Okay, so what I really enjoy doing with this is I like to personify my emotions. And this is for all you investors. Your emotions matter. So like if this sounds a little crazy, remember that you make you make decisions all the time, and a lot of your decisions are emotionally fed. And so the more that you can practice this, not even just in investing, but in all of your life, you get to become wealthier, happier, have less anxiety, be in power with your life, and be happier and freer. So what I like to do with my emotions in particular is if anyone hasn't seen it's the Pixar movie, all the little balls. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yes. I know which one you're talking about right now. Inside or something.
Inside Out.
Inside Out. Yeah.
Okay. I highly recommend turn on Inside Out. If you have kids, you can watch it. If you are just an adult, go watch it yourself. It's such a cute movie. But also they talk about, it's a movie just about emotions and how you can personify your emotions as well. And so I found that like all of the emotions live within me and I can talk to them and get really curious. So like, this is like, I mean, for me, I also use tools like the sauna and the cold plunge and like float tanks to be able to find those edges and those emotions. But ultimately, when an emotion is there, I like to get a little curious with it and be like, hey, what's going on today? How are you feeling? You're just a little child within me. What is that emotion? What is this pressure here for? And then my emotion sometimes speaks and it's like, well, I really just wanted to be seen and like I'm really embarrassed with how I spoke in that way and it might have felt really unpolished. And now I just outburst in this way because like I really wanted just to be loved. And it's like the emotion just wants to be expressed. And so I allow that emotion to like step up on stage, to have its spot, to allow it to be seen. And then once it expresses, quite often the emotional charge goes down. And then I'm able to actually get clear with my decisions. And that's how like, it's just like, we just need to like shift the energies and give the energies our attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is funny because you're trying to, this actually like popped up for me today. I was taking some notes for another stream, but trust and like trusting yourself, trust, and like where we're going right now, like where are we right now with trust? What is trust essentially? Trust is not just social, it's financial too. Like that's I feel like that's how we get to tie all these things back into crypto and being here and why it's so important to I'm not coming from a mental health perspective because I feel like that just is like that's so overused and it's like instantly puts like an ick on people's mind, like mental health. We went from like 17 people watching to like 2, So what I was saying is like it's just we're going into what's supposed to be a trustless system. And if you can't trust yourself, who can you trust?
Yeah.
And you got to be able to trust that you're making that decision from a well-informed, calm, clear place so that you're not looking back going, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I sold all my T-shares. Like, it's just grounding to what's important. I mean, honestly, I'm watching people flip through it. Like, I can't stress this enough. And I don't mean to sound negative Nancy here because my name is Lindsay and it's light and lovely. So I don't want to scare anybody, but times are only going to get harder if you stay in that mental box. And if you focus on grounding yourself, so like literally get out there, plant some seeds, like touch actual dirt, like make some I don't know, I'm making bread. Like that's something I've been doing to like connect and get outside of these markets and keep my hand, like find a new passion rabbit hole to follow through. So let me ask you this. What are some things that you do when if you didn't have that emotional intelligence, right? Like, because that's a lot of what it is. It's like emotional intelligence. A lot of us were not given that, like emotional intelligence to be freely like ask a million questions at a kid. Like some of us were told would like sit over there and children are to be seen and not to be heard, you know, and if you're not fostered to facilitate the communication early as a child, like how the heck are you supposed to be expected to do that as an adult? But guess what? When you're in a Twitter space and you're standing up and you're talking about something, like yeah, that's pretty important that you're an adult and you use those skills. And I'm not like not coming down on anybody. Like I really want to lift people up and encourage them. Like it's okay to ask questions. And I feel like that's why it's so important to get a place where like, you know, people don't feel dumb to ask questions. Like your groups, your community, these like women and men could come in and they can just come in and say, okay, I'm kicking off my I almost pictured it like your Zoom room was like a bunch of people like connect like sitting back and being like relaxed and being like, okay, I'm here to learn about crypto. What's going on, instead of being like, okay, how do I make mid gains and how do I go from like 5x to 25x and when do I cash out? And like that just sounds like a whole sweaty nightmare. And I get a lot of those calls, you know. So
Yeah. I mean, like for this first round of my program, it took until week 6 that I actually talked about crypto.
that's
So
fantastic.
like yeah, so like they everyone did like a master class with me, which I basically brought them through like this is how you build financial freedom and this is how it works. But I didn't bring crypto in until week 6, which I totally could have been sooner. But it worked out really well because that way people had a really strong understanding of like the system that they're buying into, why they're doing it, how the cycles work, volatility. They understood everything. And then I was like, all right, now it's time that we actually introduce crypto, introduce the frameworks to spot innovation. And once that happened, they were like, okay, we get what's noise. We get it. We're calm. And I'm like, excellent. Great.
That's awesome. Cutting them again and getting them through the noise is not hard to do. It's just like it's just speaking their language and coming down and finding what's relatable and most importantly, like finding out what's important to them at the end of the day. You know, why, what's important. Russ has a question for us. Russ, honest question. Are women impervious? Yeah, I said that right. Impervious to ladies' liquor and leverage. Are we impervious to that?
What does he mean by that?
I don't know.
Like
Russ, can you clarify that?
the distractions of like, I guess, ladies for men, the prettiness, the liquor being like makes decisions and leverage being like gambling energy. I don't know.
Oh, all right, we'll go with that one. Are we impervious to these things?
I personally think women, if anything, we might be a little bit more avoidant than impulsive. And that those 3 feel a little bit more impulsive. That rec traders. Yeah. So I just think women would typically opt out rather than be more impulsive and rec trader. They would just passively be like, victim me, woo, like it's my problem, it's my fault. I think fault is what a lot of women do.
We could go, I was like, that might be another episode. We could go deep on that one. Yeah. Because I mean, I hear a lot of it's my fault I didn't do this sooner. Like a lot of shame. I hear a lot of shame on that. Well, I'm sorry, sister. Was somebody sitting there tell you to play with Barbies, or were they teaching you how to cash out a till drawer? Like, what were you shown? What was your hand? What have your interests been? Like, where'd you know what I mean? Like everybody gets down a life path with that. And yeah, we don't tend to get distracted with dudes, liquor, and I mean, you know, we all get a little nuts with leverage sometimes on that one. Like you got to learn though. Like that's how you learn. You get out there and you stick, unless somebody is like holding your hand, they're showing you like a mentor from the get. Like some of us just stick our neck out there with some love and then we either get it or we don't. But either way, it's a learning lesson. And I feel like not just women are open to that, men are open to learning lessons too. It's finding that balance of masculine and feminine energy that we all hold, but encouraging which is funny, right? Because we're seeing so much feminism coming out of men these days. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I thought you were going to say, feminism is so far from being feminine, but carry on.
No, please. We could elaborate on that one too, because I think that gets quite um quite misconstrued. I am feminine. I am not a feminist. I encourage my brothers and my male energies around me to like I support them and they support me. That's how it ebbs and flows. Truly like growing and building a community of like-minded individuals is not competing with the other sex for like who gets to go on the front line. Obviously his D's bigger than mine, so go ahead, bro.
I think kind of speaking to energy building opposite end, if that's something that motivates men, I find that, and this is one thing I'm really, really passionate about for women, is I think women enjoy for things to be more fun and enjoyable. Even think about like what we enjoy doing, going shopping, getting our nails done, go giggling and being girls, go playing and dancing in the sun, like jumping in the water. Like girls just want to have fun. Like it's truly that energy to it. And girls want to do, they want to be in community with each other, but also not have to get into the deep tech side of things. So telling, like sharing connection and sharing visions around why and what people are doing, what's the emotional side that's going on behind them. I've seen that that's been a huge like community builder for women to just be like, hey, I'm not alone. I want to be seen, and this is my story. And quite often, when they share a story, what I find happening within other women is that their story speaks to someone else's story and activates something within them to be like, oh, I didn't even realize that was what lived within me. Thank you so much for sharing that. I suddenly feel seen by you sharing your story. And so I think that more women will come into the space if they find that there are communities that they feel seen with, they can tell their stories, share their emotions. And also like all communities who welcome women in this way, they wildly benefit from having the beautiful feminine energy by having like a more softness to it, by also like poking fun and joking with the guys a little bit to like call them out on their shit sometimes.
Oh,
Like
you have to.
we need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to. And that's kind of the feminine energy for me has always been like this playful energy of like, it's radiant and it's beautiful and it's so attractive, but it's playful at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's not spiky. It's not bra burning. It's not about anger. It's about like really just. I love the way you put it. I'm not going to elaborate on that one. um, Women are on a different level. Well, you know,
It's a different level. It's not a higher or a lower. It's a different level.
thank you.
Well,
That was very well put. Yeah, it's this. Like and I guess it depends on like how you were raised and what you believe, but you know, if you look at it like men are the light, right? They're the seekers, they're the light attractors, they're the light and we are the vessels. We are the vessels that hold that light. And therefore like those two energies come together like pieces of a puzzle. Not one is not greater than the other. We're puzzle pieces.
do you, do you think that the men are the light in the vessel and we're the vessel, or is it the other way around?
You know, I think that the men being the light and the seekers and the like basically and going back to biologically speaking, men are the hunters, the gatherers, they're like the protectors, right? Like if you think about it from like let's go back to caveman existence and allegedly what we know from that. So I believe that because they are more distracted by shiny things like, you know, ladies, liquor and leverage, like those, you know, those things that could get a trader wrecked are because that man is like shooting light at sources for some vessel to catch it, nurture it, and to bring it into fruition so that that light can shine at its greatest. So for me, like with a partnership, I truly believe like when that masculine and feminine energy comes together, that it creates such a soulful like experience. So who am I to speak on that one? I say vessels because we are like we're the growers. We're like if like going back, you know, female biologically speaking, we're the container, you know.
Well, okay, I'm going to counter with something.
I'm all
So like,
good.
so what if part of men gathering, being like the hunter gatherers, what they're doing is they're providing the structure. They're providing the vessel for us as the light to be in like what is feminine, what is female? It's like we're known as like the expressive, the emotion, the passionate, the like that is the light. And it's the man's role to protect, to tend, to have us feel safe so that we can express. And then they get to nourish and get to be like the recipient of that expression. And the expression is more of the light. And then they feel fulfilled when they're like, oh, she feels so radiant that she can express. She feels safe with me. Oh, yes, yes, she's doing her job. She can be more female, more feminine, and more radiant.
Oh yeah, I 100%, I really like that. I must have had it backwards. I remember reading it in a book like once, and I remember being like, "Yeah, that was great," but no, I agree. I probably had to flip. Well, I could do those things. I can flip flop and back and forth sometimes, but I do like that because it's true. Like there's nothing there. I'm gonna give you guys a little secret out there for those that you don't know. Even though you don't know it, sometimes you guys just like to feel like special boys without being told that you're a special boy or without us like fawning and making you feel special. We just do these little tiny feminine things to bring that energy in, and it's needed, So I think that women do coexist. And Stephen, good to see you. Stephen said that women are the vessel and men are the light. Oh, okay. Well, like as long as we're like together on this one, where we're like, okay, somebody's light, somebody's a vessel. Like we got jobs to do, and nobody's higher or lower. We're all like on a pretty good playing field. But
he dropped that comment as you said that, so that might have been why.
Oh, that's funny. I've heard some women are statistically better investors. Yeah. Because of that light vessel situation where like that hunter that gathers is bringing us resources. And some of us can be resource guarders, but some of us can also be resource facilitators where we take what you bring us and we bring it and we make more of it. So, if you brought us, like, I don't want to get too like pioneer on this one, but if they're bringing us into a situation where we feel safe, we will feel more inclined to participate, right? And I think that's a lot of like the jargon that comes along with. And I think that I love that you speak not on a techie level, that you're coming at them in a person to person level of those things, because it just makes it easier to. Nobody wants to have to flip their dictionary when you're having a conversation, right? So making those things relatable is really important. And we all have just a different way of expressing those things. And to have that feminine tone to it, like finance is not ready for the diamond hands coming in. Like finance is not ready for these women to come in and flip the script and say, oh, no, that's not actually how you boys better play nice here. It's just, I don't know. What do you think about that? Where do you see that going?
Actually, I think so. Steven's comment that he just uploaded, really love this one. And I think that there's actually a lot of this energy that comes up in that question you just asked. But he said, no one is higher or lower, in my opinion. Women will now make the world better. The age of masculine is ending, and now is the age of feminine. Yang energy is out, yin energy is in. And I think this sums up a lot of what's going on in the world, where like we're collectively all softening. And we can feel the shifts. And I think you've mentioned before stuff about like the Aquarian era. But even the world is shifting, and we can feel the shifts energetically, but also it's shifting in values. And so I think with the softening, people are actually, and also they're wondering and they're realizing like, how hard do I actually have to work? How much do I want to enjoy my life? Do I want to live a life that's designed by ease? And I think we can also see it very much by like how much there has been an emphasis around mental health. And also like, of course, 2020, the lovely, lovely pandemic definitely exacerbated that, to have people like really have to focus on their mental health and their emotions. And this is all part of the softening era of like inviting more of that feminine in, because we all have masculine and feminine within ourselves. Masculine energy is just like, shortly to think, masculine energy is doing energy. Feminine energy is being and feeling energy. So emotions are more feminine. Masculine is more doing, getting the tasks done, the to-do list. but we have both of them that live within ourselves, and both need to be nurtured. So I love just how like the conversations have been shifting. And I think a lot of this will be shifting in the financial world too. Or at least my intention is that we get to talk more about our emotions, because that's how you ultimately make decisions in the financial world. I also think that like collectively part of this like transition from masculine to feminine era is like the ego is dying, or it's dying in so many ways. And like people are more desensitized to the ego, to like when people are like, you must buy now, like out of fear, like pushing things onto people. People are like, no, there's no urgency. Like there's clearly something wrong with you, or there's some void within you if you're pushing this on me. And so people are actually becoming more receptive to authenticity, to the softness, to the emotional side of things, which is why they're like, well, please tell me why, because clearly it's not hitting well with me. And so I think some of that is how like the financial space will soften. But quite honestly, I actually haven't really fully thought about that question.
Yeah, I don't see that happening for a while. I mean, 2030, boom, no more stock market. Stock market stops. That's my prediction. Yeah, put it on your calendar. Well,
in
think
7
about it. Yeah,
years.
7 years. 7 years, the stock market will stop. That's my prediction.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, if it does, Lindsay, I heard it first.
Yeah, you heard it first at Vibrafinance. If it doesn't, well then don't blame me. But I mean, they can only pull so many charades for so long. And when you have all the tokenization of assets that are coming down the board, who's gonna pay the people to do the stock things when AI could do those things? And it's called automated market makers. And look at what's happening on XRPL and like institutional money is coming in, guys. And now is the time more than ever to like, because I'm speaking to my PulseChainians, my Hexicans out there. And if you're tuning in and you're new to the ecosystem and you came in because like okay, shiny candles, this is awesome. Know that this is truly like I get around to different communities. Let me tell you, Hexicans are the besticans. Sologenic is also a pretty cool community too. Like if you ever want to venture out there, you find a lot of soul sisters, soul brothers out there. Very, very cool community. But Hexicans keep it tight. And it's because we are part of a truly decentralized financial system within like the Richard Hart ecosystem here. I'm speaking specifically because if you compare this decentralized finance to other projects out there that call themselves decentralized, it's almost laughable because they're completely tied to institutional money, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You gotta be able to play the game correctly, and that depends on you. But that's where we come back to like knowing you, knowing your emotions, knowing your whats, knowing your why, so you know where you're going, where you're coming from, participating in these things. I just wanted to touch upon something. How are you feeling, Whitney? How are we doing here with time?
We're doing great.
All right, cool. I want to just take a look at this one really quick. I don't know. Oh, yeah, I'm looking at myself on the monitor here. I forget. It's been a while since I've streamed. Sorry about the rusty. I'll blow it up so you guys can. Oh no, I just moved my screen. Sorry. Anyway, let me see if I can get that closer so you guys can read it. So anyway, this is the paperwork that came across from the SEC today for Richard Hart, and there's been like a little bit of blah about it on Twitter. So I just wanted to let you guys know that this is just basically them saying, hey, we can't find him. We can't get a hold of him, but we're doing our best to serve him. And this is what we use to serve him. And if we can't get a hold of him by December 15th, I believe, I apologize, I can't get the other half of the paper to come up, but I believe it's around the 15th of December. If we can't get a hold of him there, then we're going to have to take alternative means to find service for him. So when these things pop up, if you don't know, like, I mean, if you don't know these things, or it's overwhelming, right? It gets a little like your ego gets in the way and you're like, whoa. And like sometimes it gets a little scary to look at those things. Honestly, you've been through one lawsuit, you've been through a couple, you've been through enough. And if you look at this, like, this doesn't look good to institutional, traditional It doesn't look good to that world. But that makes me go, okay, let's take a better look at this, because if your system is so decentralized that you don't have, you're not paying anybody to do your marketing, you're not paying anybody to work for you commercially, how many other projects out there can actually say that with outside of this ecosystem? So to decentralize finance in this way, of course, you're going to find a million different folks throwing a million different arrows and a million different people, because we are the people that you can't stick into a box. And that makes more sense, right? Like, so I feel like that's where a lot of these like egos and emotions come in, because we have so many different like intense personalities of a decentralized group that's trying to centralize. It's kind of funny at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. So speaking of this, since we've been talking about emotions, can we get into the emotions of what's going on in our community right now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Because I think especially seeing all the law stuff, like, so coming from like, I'll use my own self as an example. Like, I'm not familiar with law. I'm not familiar with a lot of how the systems work. I haven't gone deep enough in to really understand how like even the SEC stuff does work. And part of it, I think part of that like unknowingness is like, well, how much of a risk is this? It's more drama, it's more suspense, it's more stuff there. And I think people in our space are very much feeling that, who are like, hey, we don't fully know what's going on, but like there's something going on that doesn't fully hit. And then on top of that, I think we're also like collectively trying to look for like, we just had our pump, we had some green candles, and now we're hitting some red, and we're like, oh, what's kind of going on? Like, there's just like kind of this staleness in the air. And we have some exciting things of like certain tech things coming out, like, liquid loans and Power City. But like, there's been some delays even on tech fronts that I think some people may even be feeling that of kind of like, what's the next excitement? What's the next pump that's there? And I think that people are just collectively might be feeling like kind of looking around, being like, what's next? Like, where are we going? And we're kind of at this like lull point between things of like, it's like kind of like bear market feel, but as things are about to take off, kind of just like uncertainty. Have you been feeling that?
I don't feel that. I eat that for breakfast and then I spit it out because it tastes bad. No,
Yeah.
but no, I don't. I do feel that. I do feel. I mean, like, I don't feel a FUD. I don't let that affect me. But I do. I do feel that collectively around. I see a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt, and then I see a lot of. I actually see it in chat sometimes too. I see a Discord. I see a Telegram. I see a lot of like I see a lot of flipping the script on the tone when the candles are green versus the candles are red. It's happy go lucky when it's green. It's a little angry, a little sad, a little depressed when it's red. So, I mean, when you step back out of that and look at it from like a Zoom macro perspective, everything is cyclical. And so just step back from that for a second, right? PulseChain just launched in May. You're going to need many weeks to wash out the week. It's survival of the fittest here. It's survival of the fittest. And for those that sacrifice, man, I don't know. For those that sacrifice, like it worked out for you, or maybe it didn't, depending on like your entry point on that one. But at the end of the day, nothing has changed about the code of Hex itself. So like speaking about Hex sentiment and PulseChain sentiment are almost, or it's like crazy because we're like PulseChain is so young and it's so new, but it's almost like speaking about two different, like it's like, well, it's speaking about two different kids, right? There's two different things going on there. And so PulseChain sentiment to me is like, guys, we don't really have anything to compare this to because there's nothing to compare PulseChain to. So, if you're looking at the chart only and it goes from here down, yeah, I guess that would make you a little bummed out. But at the same time, if you understand how cycles work and how markets work, and it's not just about doing your research and doing your homework. It's really about settling in and knowing what you hold and knowing where it is and knowing the very possibility that could go to zero is a real possibility. because this is a volatile asset class. This is a volatile system. We are in volatile times, and it's only going to get more volatile even if we get clarity, because there is still so much opposition. We're still so gate kept. And these are the things that when people start getting like, they see the numbers go down, they need to really just kind of sit back in themselves and think for a second, okay, stand, pivot, grow, build, because that's the only way that we're going to get out of this. And watching these projects build and watching these things come in it's been amazing to see, but the people are getting washed out. It's the same chats going back and forth. And so in order to get new life, new energy, new breath into this ecosystem, we need to do more things like Whitney is doing. And that is connecting with, like, I don't know, if you go golfing with 10 guys that you haven't seen in forever and don't talk about crypto. Just listen to them and where they're at in the world and what they're like, what's important to them and where it's going from. I mean, it's astonishing that people aren't more concerned with like the truth and the lies out there. It's astonishing to me that people, I recently went to a party and people were having a conversation where they were talking about like Vanderpump Rules over like personal growth. And I was like, I'm in the wrong spot. So, know if you're having those conversations or you're listening to something that's making you uncomfortable, like Whitney said, hold that for a second. Whoa, why did that one make me like, ooh, that one gave me the feels? Just start there. If it gives you any kind of feels, anger, sadness, fear, doubt, that's a feel. Sit in your feels for a second. I know it sounds very whatever, but I'm telling you, in the long run, you'll be so glad that you practice it, because that's truly what it is. Until it and just like anything else, until you can do it second nature, it's a practice situation, and you have to give yourself grace for the times that you don't necessarily practice it in person or, in that moment presently. I think I got kind of off on that one, but
specifically for the so even I'll bring us back to the market, because it's
Thank
good
you.
to be in to acknowledge your emotions, but also bring it back literally to the facts, because sometimes our emotions take over and they forget objectivity. They forget what's actually happening in reality, and they create a delusion and a story of la 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 la, this is going, and this is the worst case scenario that's going to happen to me. And so even today in the market, because even as you were saying it, I was like, oh, these things could go to zero, and I am feeling all this ick, and I'm just like, oh, this feels so uncomfortable. And I'm like, Lindsay, bring it back to the fact now. And so the fact that I would like to drop in is, first off, the PulseChain code literally works. I was going down a lot of rabbit holes with different layer 1s and layer 2s over the past few days. And this is a big thing, is that our code works. Second off, we have a very passionate community. Everyone's continuously talking. People are continuously building. Transactions are continuously flowing. More innovations are being had. Yes, things may not be fully realized right now in real life, but people are building behind the scenes and they're doing their job, so that as time goes on, we will have more innovation. We will have more tools to buy on leverage or to stake, and to be able to grow and amplify our wealth on chain. We are decentralized, and we are DeFi. We are true DeFi in so many different ways that many other communities, just about, in my opinion, I think we are the most decentralized community. And that is something that is done by design, by the founder, by how the blockchain is architected, by how the community operates. It's done in every single way. And so these, for me, are the facts that keep reminding me, okay, my emotions might feel a little bit chaotic, but what's going on in the market right now is there's so much truth that we are just the builders, and there's just a little stagnancy right now. And this time will pass. There will be more sparkly things that come on. There will be more news, and then price will rise with that. Or there will be a whale that buys in, and then suddenly you're like, these feelings go away. But it's in these moments, remind yourself, why are you here?
Really important to remind, if you need to write, if you are in that situation where you're over leveraged and you find that you're panicking when you look at the charts or even think about the market with those things, and that's not that, and being over leveraged is whatever, you're still, if the market went to zero, I'd be really freaking bummed. I'm not gonna lie, that'd be terrible, but it's not gonna happen. It's not going, I mean, I will say that with confidence to 2030, and it's not going to happen. You can quote those. Those are my predictions. But they're going to shake it out harder. So, and but it's also like, it's so funny because it's cyclical. So they're going to shake it out hard. They're going to dump it. They're going to crack. Like, look what happened before, look what happened at like, Y2K. Remember that when everybody freaked out? Oh, new technology. The banks are not going to be able to read the numbers. It's going to click back. Oh, please.
Everything people resist change, and just use history. Look at other layer ones. What happened with Ethereum? What has happened with Solana? What has happened with insert literally any of the layer ones? They all rise up, and then they all have a period, and then or maybe they don't rise up immediately, but they all have their period, and then they rise. It takes adoption.
Yeah, and Richard's a smart man. He's not gonna launch a chart in the bottom of like wherever we are, either the beginning of a bull market or the bottom of a bear market. You know, he's not gonna launch a chart that's gonna look like crap in 5 years. It's done intentionally, and he said that multiple times. Now, does he have control over that? At this point, I don't really think that it would be wise to even speak on that, because God only knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Literally, only God knows. My point is, if you participate, if you sacrificed for the freedom of speech, because really that's what you agree to at the end of the day. You're sacrificing for his freedom of speech. You're sacrificing for the freedom movement. If you're making those sacrifices, then truly take on my heart as a sacrifice. Like, it's gone and you're never going to see it again. And that would make it a lot easier to hold on to your bags. Now, making some moves in the PulseChain playground, let me tell you, has been so fun. But I can also see that it's getting discouraging for some. And so that's why I really want to I really wanted to take this time for you and I to like send that message out there to the community as a collective that, I don't know, how else do you say that besides it's going to be okay? Because that sounds a little vague.
We can do tough things. This will rise. I mean, this moment will pass, but collectively, like, I think, like, I'm a big advocate for community, but I also, sometimes you have to ask yourself, is community being toxic to you to some degree? Do I need to take a break from community at some time? If that's the case, and like crypto's ruling your world and your emotions are ruling it with it, take a pause. I do this with my friendships. If I feel like I've outgrown someone to some degree or something's going on, I can have tough conversations, but sometimes I also have to say, like, I need to take a little break. So I think the same thing can go even with the community, that like sometimes we just need to like put the phone down, go step into nature, go connect with family and friends. And like, just ultimately, this is a trust game. Remember that like you've done your homework, you've built your conviction. You can't control the market. You can't control it, or else it will control you. I think a lot of this is like, you have to surrender to some degree of like, I've done my work. I'm playing the game. I've chose this game. I'm really excited with this game. Like, I frequently have to remind myself where I'm like, it's so exciting to be on earth here. And it's so exciting to be me personally for myself, where I'm just like, the games that I've signed up for, especially in the crypto world, like these are games that like, these are what movies are made of. And this is my life. And so hopefully you've designed your life to be an exciting life, one that feels like a movie, maybe not as super crazy volatile as like a romance or a wild romance, but entertaining, that has the lows serve their time, but then their highs outweigh the lows. So I think we're just remind yourself, like, zoom out, go enjoy life. It's not all about crypto. It's not all about the charts.
It's not at all. It can't be. And the charts are just a manifestation of energy. It's just the manifestation. It's energy on a screen that you can see and you can read. And the only way that we can like predict that energy is to be aware of it and to learn how to read it for yourself. And then you can learn how to read it on a macro level, because it's almost palpable. And guys, we are so far away from mass adopt. Like, we're so far away from a bubble. It's not even funny, because we haven't even hit mass adoption yet. So no, like, bubbles, there's cycles and there's cycles in like there's cycles on earth, there's cycles in seasons, there's cycles in a market. And this is just part of the cycle that is like wash out the weak hands and bring we are in the era of the greatest wealth transfer in history. And so of course, and also we're in a very uncertain time where we're looking at AI dominating our like emotional responses to media news. These things are like, now we're able to see these things in real time from across the world almost instantly, but we're also able to hear the other side of the story. We're also able to speak to somebody who lives in that area or lives in that region or is familiar with those things. So using those tools that we have for discernment is super important to keep us and our heads on straight. And like Hexpedition here said that it's funny how influencers are talking down to Hex but pumping Pulse at the same time. They don't understand Pulse is built for Hex, and all these big influencers just don't take the time to understand Hex Connect. It's so crazy, isn't it though? I love that I had the crypto bubbles up earlier. I love that they put up eHex and Hex up there because it will force these quote unquote influencers to pay attention. Because if they don't answer their audience questions, where are they going to come to? They're going to come to Viber Finance Live and start listening to some real like good crypto information. Adam goes live at 10:30, but they really like there's just so much noise out there. So I really love that you said to step back and touch dirt and take some time away from the screen. Like nobody wants to do that when you're like excited and you're passionate, like especially when you're building and growing a project. That is the most important time to do that so that you're not making decisions out of fear, uncertainty, doubt, or greed.
Yeah. But
right?
even if you are passionate and excited, then I invite you to bring that excitement to the real world. Go connect with someone, even if it's, I mean, like all of a lot of my friends and family know, like they'll just get voice notes from me, like even if it's 30 seconds, a minute of like, hey, I'm really excited this came in, or a screenshot of something. And they're like, all of your excitement is welcome here. Like we need more excitement in the world. And then I'll like go off to the sauna, I'll go off into nature and I'll run into friends and they're like, what's going on in your world? And they're like, oh, excitement. Oh, we love to hear this. And I don't have to bore them with the details or like the tech things, but I can share enough things that make it human. And people are like, we want to be around feel good energy. So like when you're passionate, when you're excited, build enough, but also take a break, go live the life, go share that excitement with other people.
Yeah. Be like, if you're picturing yourself as like a shaker of salt, be like a sprinkle of it. Don't dump on someone. Right. Because if you put a sprinkle, it highlights it, gives it flavor. It's interesting. It like it brightens up notes,
That's such a good one, rather than dumping the whole salt shaker onto the mac and cheese.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've done that before and it's such a bummer. Like, it squelches the conversation, squelches your meal. It's never a good time for any of those things. And like we were saying, like we're going into a trustless system. Get out there and establish some trust with 10 people within 10 miles. Get to know 10 people outside of your immediate resources. And you'll be surprised at the shift in your energy and the like renewed source of enthusiasm that you'll come back to these markets with, because the hex code hasn't changed. I just want to let everyone know that it's breaking news. So it's just to see like the selling and the dumping, and then like the euphoria when it pumps, and then the when it dies. It's not hard to watch. It's just as cycles go on, it just gets, I think, more interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. My headphones are about to die. All right. I could keep you all night on this one. Is there anything else that we wanted to cover? What else exciting are you up to? Like, I know that we touched a lot on emotions. That was like really what we wanted to cover tonight, was like just letting you guys know that are still with you. Thank you for listening and being here with us. Thank you for being here in chat. We just want to let you know that like even though there might be like a collective, like crazy energy out there, like you have more of this here too, more of this grounded energy, knowing what you hold, knowing what like, so here's a couple resources, I guess. What do you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's knowing that times will pass. There was one message I was sending over to one of my friends today. We were just chatting about like the energy of the space, and I'm just gonna like see if there's anything else. But we're young, we're growing. Honestly, like you guys know what we're investing in and why. Like go back to why you started off and what brought you to the space. Because I frequently have to remind myself, I'm like, why? Why are we investing in this? And for me, like being previously an engineer, I'm like, I'm investing in innovation. I'm investing in the future. I'm investing in being part of building a brighter world that I actually want to be a part of, and that supports allowing money power to be able to flow rather than to be constrained and controlled and contracted by other systems. So we're not just, yes, we're investors. Yes, we're here. We're here for the long game. And even if your long game is this cycle, you're here for a reason and for intentionality. And this moment will pass. Things will rise. Things will move. Evolutions will be had. And when the next green candles rise, you're going to be so grateful that you're in these positions today. I think that's one big thing is like quite often we can hit the FOMO when green candles come, but you have to remind yourself that you only get to receive the green candles if you hold through the red candles.
That's right. Or buy them up, because those are opportunities. Yeah. When you see massive tips like that, like that's why it's so important to have a why, so that you have something. And why the heck am I holding out of this? I mean, I've said that a few times the last couple of weeks. I'm like, why the heck am I holding out of this coin? Like, but I invested in it for a reason. And sometimes like, if I know darn well that it was just a total degen play, that I have no problem flicking that thing to the side and cutting it as a loss and a learning lesson. But if it's something that I really put and hold as like a staple or a cornerstone in my portfolio, then that's not something I mess around with. That's something that I hold and I look at very seriously. And there's reasons for that, and that's why it's so important that you're doing what you're doing, is giving the people that you're working with the opportunity to really explore why they're participating in the system in the first place, because that will help them stay on course instead of chasing I like whatever, like it's so cliche, pennies in front of freight trains, like I pick up pennies, darn right. If that train is far enough away, I will sprint over those tracks. I will pick up that penny and I'll put it in my pocket. And if
I pick up pennies. Oh, let me show you. Actually, I pick up pennies all day.
That's fantastic.
These pennies, actually, I find coins speak to me. And so this is just like over the past year, I found so many coins on the ground, and it's so funny to me. Anyways, there's something else that hit me. Like part of this too is, the process of building wealth too is like we actually, like if we know what and why really we're invested in it, then it's no longer just a meme coin took off and we're just magically rich. Instead, it's I did my research, I held my intention, I held my conviction, I built my wealth. And because I've built my wealth, money also grows with me, my power grows with me. And it's no longer just like, oh, I'm just going to drop it off on that frivolous one night or that trip or that splurge buy. It's no longer just like you're magically rich, but instead you actually get to build wealth, which helps amplify your power and your impact in the world as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're chasing rich, you're chasing wrecked. It's a totally different mindset. A rich mindset, rich dad, poor dad, rich mindset is totally different, I should say, in my own humble opinion, than a wealthy mindset. Because a wealthy mindset encompasses not only finances, it encompasses family, it encompasses your health, your mental health, your wealth is your health and your mental health and your self-care. Is like, all these things that seem so taboo and people don't want to talk about them. I love that there's more conversations in crypto about this. and on crypto streams and with these things, so that we are raising the collective consciousness. It is, I'm like, it's now more important than ever to reach those who are not willing to receive our message in ways that we can facilitate this communication with them. Like, I could just channel deep right in, but I don't want to scare anybody off. We only have 10 people left. So I like, that's another episode, but it's just, honestly, if you dig in deep to that, if you heard the messages as some of us receive them, in the way that we receive them, I would open up more doors of, I don't know, I just feel like it would open up more doors and there'd be so much less predatory movement out there. Because if the the more afraid you are, the easier you are to control.
Yeah.
Or like
We're
the
we're all shifting collectively, little bit by little bit. Like, it's all part of it. The fact that people are still in this room means that they're open to it and they're receptive to it. And I think just the more stories that we tell, the more that we just normalize it. Humans connect to stories. But yeah, it's all just part of the process. It's all part of just like the consciousness evolution. Like, these conversations wouldn't be had 5 years ago, even less than that. So it's even beautiful that we're having conversations. People are sitting in the room, they're receptive to it. There's been a lot of comments going back and forth. Like, people feel this. We're here.
Yeah. And it's amazing if you stop and sit back and you can actually like tell, like, okay, that's mine, that's not mine. And it
Yes.
makes it much easier to stay on course with what's in front of you. And now, like I said, it's definitely a practice, right? It's definitely a practice to get to that point. But once you're there, the creative energy, the creative flow that's able to come through you is so much more rewarding than the feeling like you have to defend your choices that you're making.
Mm-hmm. I know that
Yeah.
feeling very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, if any of the guys out there that are listening if you guys are struggling with like, getting your partner or your spouse on board, I'm talking like specifically men that are married to women out there, which is so like, to me, like, am I that old where it's like weird for me to have to set their precedents? Like, excuse me, men, I'm speaking to men that are married to women, like real women that were born, like women that stay women, like men and women union. That's what I'm talking to specifically. If you have that union, because there's different energies, right? But in that like energetic field where like, if that woman is not interested or open, and she doesn't understand why you're doing crypto, she doesn't understand why you're invested, she doesn't understand why you're starting a project, she doesn't understand where this money's going from because it looks like funny internet money, then you have a resource. You have Whitney that you can send your wife to, because she might like to open that door in that way. And then you can, because obviously if there's like a discourse in there with that conversation, like if there's discourse in that conversation, that communication isn't getting facilitated in the way that it needs to, and you're not making it relatable to her, you're not making it interesting to her, therefore she does not know your why. And as your partner, she just wants to truly feel and unfeel. That's important for us there, fellas. Listen, we want to feel your why. We want to feel it with you so that we are on the same page and we're growing and going together. Now, if your intention is to get into crypto and do wife changing money, that's a different story and a different show. I can't even believe
that's a good one.
I can't even. I die.
Yeah. But really, I love talking with conscious women. It was even really beautiful. One of the conversations I had just yesterday in sauna was with, I know I have a lot of sauna conversations about crypto. It just naturally
I'm jealous about the amount of time you spend in a sauna. Let's be serious. I'm jealous here.
Yeah. I spent a fair amount of time there. But anyways, one of the conversations, like, a girl was like, hey, I know money runs deeper. It's deeper than just money. It's back to relationships. It's back to relationship with self-worth, with power. And she's like, I want to take radical ownership of my money, and vote for the systems that I want to see, but I don't understand this and I don't have any examples. And so anyways, I just find that it's like, the more that we actually share our own personal whys, the more that we attract those people, and people want to work with people who see the world through the same lens.
Yeah. It's easier through the same lens, rose colored preferably, right?
Yeah. Rose color, but
Someday
real colored. Real colored.
Technicolor. Yeah, I like it. No blue blockers. I mean, come on. Uh, I can't even think about all the. I can't even go into. I was actually gonna. I had pulled up something on my note on my phone. I wanted to touch base with you earlier about. It was something like I wanted to know your thoughts about AI. Of course, probably I can't find that now. AI integration. What do you think about that? Do you think it's being like? Oh, I'm just sorry, like just throwing this out there. Totally left ball out question, but to lower. Do you think it's being thrown out there to lower human condition to alleviate suffering? Like what I mean that was kind of broad and vast. I was just taking notes really quick, but I'm thinking like AI is going to get so nuts that people are going to crave human to human contact.
Yes. And I think that's also why authenticity is so, it can't be missed nowadays. It's like the things that you can feel when someone is authentic, and you can feel when something is robotic and dry. And you're like, hi, I don't want your wall or your shell. I want the real human. Speak to me as the real, raw truth. And I think nowadays, anyways, that's like a huge theme, is that people are like, I can tell what's authentic and what's not. So people's meters on authenticity is even more than ever. People's meters around connection and desiring more connection is higher, I believe, than ever before. Um, but I do think that we can look at the negatives, or I guess that wouldn't be a negative. Like AI would be driving people to more of this, but essentially, like AI is here, I believe, to help us, if it's used correctly, to help us unlock more ease. If we can learn how to use it as a tool, it allows less of the human doing and having to be part of the system and like churn all the things out, and more of a human being, and specifically more of a human who creates with their creative energy.
Mm.
So the more that we're able to spend time in that space, the more that that energy just naturally arises and bubbles up. And we're like, okay, now AI, can you help like polish this word up? Can you do the edit checks for me? Can you simplify this? And then us humans are like, great, AI did it for me. Like life is so much easier and more, and now I can spend more time in connection with other people. So that's my take around AI. For the, I haven't gone super far into the down a lot of AI rabbit holes, but just like intuitively when I've tapped in a lot, that's been my read.
That's awesome. I wanted to get your like general feel on that one just to see like where you how you felt about that one. So thank you for sharing that with us because um, that connection is everything. I feel like that's why the message of like take the time now while we're infants, and I say we as a pulse chain, you know, like with the pulse chain ecosystem, we're infants, man. We're barely crawling. We're so young. If it was an actual baby, you wouldn't be poking that thing with a stick and be like, get up and run, let's go. I don't know. I mean, some parents are a little intense, but yeah.
I haven't been able to tell.
Why aren't you fully sustaining and feeding our family? You're 6 months old now. Get the hell out.
Yeah.
So, for the non-parental folks, I guess it's but everybody can relate that to like a puppy or a baby or something. You just wouldn't like expect that thing to get up and run. I mean, it would be nice, but then what does that say for the longevity of it? Like it speaks to as us now as such a decentralized community to come together in a centralized way where we're like speaking and sharing and growing and doing, and that doesn't necessarily have to be out around a crypto project. That comes with you as a person creating things of value in this world, because those are things that AI cannot do. AI cannot create human to human connection. And what is AI being fed right now? The collective the collective their thoughts, their feelings. And what is a huge macro feeling and thoughts? It's scared, it's insecure, it's ego driven right now. And so you will see so much of that, because what happens when you feed something like that, it grows into that. Like, oh, that's another thing. We're probably going to run out of time before we get through all the cool things. We'll just have to like we'll have to do this more often, please. um you know, you are what you speak, right? And how you listen to, and it's not just listening, it's how you speak to yourself that really matters, and what are you telling yourself and where are you going from it. I don't know why I like started going off on that one, but no, you have like some gem to give us.
Yeah. It's actually funny. I've had a lot of people recently been bringing this up to me in different layers, because I find that like with personal growth and development and spiritual growth and development, you get the same message and you work through a lot of same things, but like you go in deeper layers and levels. And for myself, I've really been noticing how, like, I know we can talk a lot about how it's like you create the world that you like, you create the world that you have and that you are. Um, all of the like positive think types of things. And I mean, I'm very optimistic, but at the same time, it can only go so far sometimes. You can also just be like, well, what gives now? And I have found, actually, I don't really know what I really have to say upon this. Just like the thoughts, that the quality of thoughts that I have been thinking have been more of like my focus, to notice even like my inner critic, my inner narrative, to be like, how am I speaking to myself? Because if I'm having resistance around a certain thing, odds are as I'm creating resistance in other areas of my life. And so for me, it all goes back to curiosity and getting curious with myself first, to be like, what's really here? What am I resisting? What am I creating in this moment with this resistance? And either I can continue to have this resistance, or I can start to get a little curious with like, what is this curiosity? What is this resistance showing me? How can I soften it a little bit? How can I invite it into my world like a friend again? So I personally think that the only way we can shift our reality is when we can get curious with like the things that we resist, and then they like start to drop like walls. And then we can create something new, because we've actually like explored that. We've said, I allow it to exist. And now I also allow it to move its own way.
Love it. Exploring things with an open and curious, mind. Oh man, I know we could keep this going I know we could keep this going, but I'm gonna get fired if I don't get off of here. No, I'm just kidding. I have a little bit of time. I can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing you and sharing your ability to connect with others, and sharing how you have this confidence in where you are and where you're going and what you're leading others into. And that speaks volumes for the confidence that you have behind where you are, where you're going, and what do you want to do. So Whitney, tell us what do you want to do? Where are you growing, and where do you want to see yourself in 5 years in crypto? Like, where do you want, like, Fantasyland? Let's talk about Fantasyland, like Richard Heart ecosystem. Where do you want to see this ecosystem in 5 years, Fantasyland?
All right, I'm going to start personal and then zoom out, because I think also as humans we need to get a little bit more personal with things. Dream wise, personally for myself, in the shorter term, like community is a very prevalent thing for me. Whether that's been community, speaking more to people. So like, I mean, I love having live streams like this. Connection based, like I am someone who's radically like just grabs life by its horns and be like, how far do we need to jump or fly? And I love seeing more women specifically do that, and like claim the like, hey, unconventional times call for unconventional thinking. Like what can we lean into? What can we be curious about? Because we're building the future all at the same time. So that's like a lot of like the boldness that I stand for, is like, how can we be more courageous and more fearless and create the world that we want? Like I said, I'd love to be speaking more. And then personally, and then as a network, I think 5 years is quite a stretch. Like, I don't think any of us can really predict where it's going to go and grow. But I personally can't predict what's going to go on to the network. But what I can predict, and what I do feel, is just like there's this overwhelming, like if we're in the pulse chain, the pulse just keeps amplifying and it just keeps attracting people in. Specifically, I really love just like the amount of consciousness that pours into the space, into this network. And so I'm really excited I know like a lot of conscious people, and there's like more awakenings constantly going on. People want to be like, what are the systems that are actually supporting where we are growing in the world? And I would absolutely love if people are like, there is this project, there's this network that is not like any other one out there. And it has this level and this layer of consciousness that the world didn't know existed, but is the thing that the world has always been waiting for. And that's what I see PulseChain can be. And it's this community also that, speaking about community connection, it's the space for consciousness also to live, to grow, and to continue to foster in the world. And so for me, that's like, how do we build a brighter world? What's the world I want to see? I want to see a world where PulseChain exists and where consciousness is able to be woven into the financial system as well.
Oh, amen to that. Amen to that. Bring more of that and bring more consciousness, bring more light, bring more love, bring all those things in.
Wait, so tell me, what is yours? What is your 5-year for yourself and for this network?
I haven't really thought about that one in a while. I haven't really sat down. Like, I usually sit down like probably around mid-December. Like, that's my Gregorian calendar planning system in me. But I think in 5 years, I see myself somewhere in Mexico. I see myself with my family, and I see myself on land that I maintain and grow, and it's sustainable living where I have renewable resources and sustainable resources. And I don't depend on middlemen for I depend on middlemen for nothing. And I lean in and I open my arms, and my community that surrounds me is with me. And I don't know, that's really what I see, which sounds so broad in general, but it really just, that's what I want. I want like Em has spoken about this before on stream too. It's like bringing in and creating a true community where, like, okay, I don't want necessarily like want a cow because I don't want to deal with like the mess and the smell. Like, if it has to happen, like, I'll take it on. It is what it is. Like, but once you grow up on a farm, like, you just get it. Anyway, so somebody can have a cow, somebody can have a pig, and like somebody can have all the gross things that I don't want to have to clean the stalls out for. But anyway, no, but those are things that communities are for, because somebody could be like, I love being a dairy farmer. I've wanted to be a dairy farmer my whole life, but it doesn't seem profitable, and my family like doesn't want me to be a dairy farmer. They want me to go to tons of student college debt instead and be a doctor. Duh. Like, go with your passion, people. That's what I want in 5 years, I guess. I was pretty like, I'll turn it back on everybody else. But that's where that's where I see this community growing in 5 years is, like, you can't speak to the charts because that energy has not happened yet. That emotion has not happened yet in that time frame. So like, it hasn't happened yet. So to say like present with those things, you can't like, oh yeah, I'm gonna throw out predictions. Like I said, like 2030, boom, no more stocks. We'll see about that. But in 5 years, I see PulseChain like absolutely thriving because of the raise in collective and conscious energy that's coming into our community, and having a DeFi product that's Hex, and then having DeFi projects, PulseChain's projects that are building on top of them. You have a solid foundation there, and you have something to really sink into, and that depends entirely on you and your experience and what you want to take away from this. Now, people say like, oh well, okay, great, go to crypto and like find a family. Well, you know what? Yeah, because there's a lot of family action. There's a lot of friends and family. There's a lot of family energy that comes through. Like, you were just at a PulseChain meetup. I heard you say that was your first one, and I also heard you say that the energy, like, you can let's hear from your lips. Like, what would you say about that? Because I feel like that can only grow from here.
Yeah. That was my second one. But both of them. So I went to Maddie's in the beginning of August, and then I went to one in a few weeks ago here in Austin, and both of them, it's so, I mean, for me, it's all about values. There's like so much value alignment, and once you get people into a room like this, you see that there's so much value alignment literally mirrored in front of your face with a whole bundle of strangers, but then you also get to go deeper to be like, how are these values actually aligned? So I think that there's a lot of it. We can play on the internet, but we really have to get out into real life and connect with the people. And then it's from there we can create a thought that goes even beyond PulseChain, but it begins with PulseChain and it begins with these shared values. So yeah, connection is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Finding common ground. You like to talk in public. You like freedom of speech. Here you go. Boom. Like I hand him. I'm like, here you go. You like to talk. You like the truth. You like to speak. Here, freedom of speech. There you go. Hand him a little something. But oh man, my heart is lighter having these conversations with you. Thank you for empowering, encouraging, renewing, and like bringing that to light. I feel like a lot of it gets buried with wind, moon, and candles and things like that. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Like this is to raise this energy up and to keep it going and to really collect more of this, because truly when you attach something that's important to you with passion and your why behind it, you really, your light just shines and people are attracted to you rather than how you having to chase them down. So like we need more of these talks. We need more of this energy out here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on, Lindsay. This has been such a great conversation. Also so refreshing for a crypto chat for me. We really covered so many topics around this, and especially the women. And just I feel like there's a lot more topics that we can even explore here around women and men, so that we can both become better human beings collectively, interacting with each other, but also supporting each other.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. You watch, guys out there and ladies and gents in the audience. Whitney and I'll be back we have some tricks up our sleeve. I could just feel it. Okay, but in the meantime, until we come up with these tricky tricks and we show them. Oh, speaking of tricky tricks, I just had this pulled up really quick. I just wanted, like, we were talking about words and how they matter, just to really just go sideways for a second here. Celsius transitioning to mining only new after SEO after the SEC feedback. So anyway, if they're getting feedback about mining and staking, that was kind of like what this article is about here. I just wanted to throw that out there so that our friends and family out there in the crypto friends and family, the PulseChain, like, okay, if you're reading more headlines where they're starting to, and I know mining and staking are different things on here, like I do understand that, but the point was the headlines say staking to mining. All right, let's get more of those headlines on, because what at the end of the day sticks in people's minds? Headlines. Oh, I didn't even show you guys the article. That was stupid. Here I'm looking at it, pointing to where I'm pointing to the paragraph that you can't see on the screen. Anyway, but I just pay attention to the headlines out there, guys. And if you're reading all the same ones, flip the script, because the truth is on the other side too, right?
Yeah,
like read with discernment. All right. That was all I had. All right. Where can we find you? Where can we follow you? Where can we get more of you? Tell us, please.
Twitter, Whitney_magic. Instagram, Whitney.magic.crypto. More stuff will be coming on YouTube. I have a podcast coming out in the next few weeks. So follow me on YouTube if you want some more of that. Specifically, it's more an educational platform. Stories coming, of course, but space for women, space for money, relationship shifting. I'm very excited.
Money relationship shifting. I love it. Oh, I can't wait to listen in. So you guys find Whitney Magic on Twitter, find her on Instagram, find her. No, just kidding. That sounds so creepy. But yeah, like, subscribe, hit the bell button, all. Make sure you keep in touch so that you can keep in tune with Whitney's podcast, because I know that you're going to have some real connection with those out there who are open to receive it. So make sure that you're opening that door, guys. That is all we have for tonight. Adam will be live in about 45 minutes. I might let him back on the microphone. I'm not sure. This thing actually is kind of sweet. This chair's a little comfy. I might take over. Just kidding. They're all waiting to hear their news and plays, so I won't stand in the way. But Whitney, thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait to have you back. Thank you. Thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you sometime soon. I'm very confident in that. And Adam will see you at 10:30. Take care, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.